Let's begin here. So the first team, as always, when we're going in alphabetical order, and is the Dallas Mavericks. So I'll begin with them. They hired Jason Kidd after parting ways with Rick Carlisle. They gave Luka Doncic a 5-year max. They signed Reggie Bullock to a 3-year, $30.1 million deal. $25 million is guaranteed. $5.5 million is guaranteed in that final season. They signed Sterling Brown to a 2-year, $6 million deal. Re-signed Boban Marjanovic to a 2-year, $7 million deal. Signed Tim Hardaway to a 4-year, $72 million deal. It can get up to, there are some incentives there where I believe it can be raised. And it is on a declining scale for anyone that cares about that stuff. And they acquired Moses Brown from the Celtics for Josh Richardson and created a $10.9 million trade exception in the process. They signed Frank Ntilikina, so their grade is obviously an A+, to a 1-year deal at the minimum. They signed Nate Hinton to a 2-way contract. They signed Eugene Omori to a 2-way contract, signed Ja'Cory McLaughlin to a 2-way contract. So I'm clearly missing someone that they waived. I'll update that immediately. But Grant, what grade did you give and did I miss anything, first of all, but what grade did you give the Dallas Mavericks for their offseason?
I think you did well. JJ Redick is gone, but he was never really there. So other than that, I think we're good. I gave Dallas a D+.
Oh,
I think it's one of my lowest grades. And it was higher at first because, like we talked about it with the East a little bit. I guess I was giving credit for, hey, they got Luka locked up to the max extension, so that's good. But that's one of those things where now my opinion is more like, well, that was never not going to happen, even though there was some very, insubstantial rumblings that maybe he was upset at the end of last year. So with that kind of aside as a given, in the Tim Hardaway deal, I'm fine with. The declining thing does kind of matter to me. I always kind of like those deals. And everything else they did was fine, on the margins. Boban coming back 2 for 7's fine. Reggie Bullock with the 3rd year on that MLE deal, partially guaranteed. Frank Ntilikina, obviously. But the big things are they replaced Rick Carlisle with Jason Kidd. And this is a situation, we'll talk about this with Portland, or at least I will. Sometimes you just, a coach runs his course with a team, no matter how good that coach is. Nobody lasts forever. And maybe that's the situation. But to replace him with Jason Kidd, I think whatever you think about Dallas's intentions to be a free agent destination and hook up with I'm going to get the guy's name wrong. Nico Harrison, maybe, is the executive they signed to run basketball
yeah, I
ops.
should have
That kind of
mentioned that.
seem like a package deal potentially with Kidd. Not sure. That's just my speculation. So you're plugged in with Nike, which maybe helps you with some free agents at some point. They're trying to correct what has been a big problem, not getting free agents. I just think the downgrade tactically and personally from Carlisle to Kidd is as big as you can, reasonably expect to see in an NBA team structure. And then I also think you just have to knock the Mavs for, yet again, they didn't go get the 3rd star. And the jokes can come in now because they don't have a second, because Kristaps Porzingis is iffy in that role. And Luka Doncic's max extension kicks in 22-23. And you're kind of, they aren't meaningfully better, I don't think. And certainly not in the way that they keep trying to be, which is by adding a 3rd star. So they failed in that effort. And I think the coaching situation, the vibes are real bad to me on that front. So I just didn't like their offseason at all. What did you think?
Yeah, so to correct myself, Nate Hinton is out in Dallas. So that was the 2-way contract. That was extra. The perils of thinking I could do this like a couple weeks in advance before we hopped on, apparently. And then the Hardaway deal is 4 years and $75 million fully guaranteed. I thought there was something else there, but it's 4 years, $75 million, and it's fully guaranteed. I didn't go through the notable subtractions, which include JJ Redick, like you said, James Johnson, Wes Iwundu, Nicole Melli, and then of course Donnie Nelson and Rick Carlisle. I should have mentioned Nelson at the top. I was not as hard as them on them as you, because so the Jason Kidd hire to me is objectively terrible. In addition to it being an actual downgrade, it's just they failed to answer for his past that included domestic abuse allegations, and it was just it wasn't as bad as the Portland Trailblazers introductory press conference for Chauncey Billups, where that could not have gone any worse if Neil O'Shea was talking out of his literal actual ass. And
Yeah.
so I just docked them for that. I didn't think that should have been the press conference should have been more informative. And then I don't like the coaching hire in itself. So that hurts them. At the same time, when you look at the on court product here, and I don't know, the front office changes, that's just tough to grade right now. We have to see if those connections are going to go anywhere. Um, on the court, though, they could have functionally had a ton of cap space, signed someone huge. This wasn't the summer to do that, though. And we can
Yeah.
make jokes about the Mavericks being the king of almost, especially now that Danny Ainge is out of Boston. This summer it wasn't going to happen. And if it did happen, like you were in a position to where you probably gave Mike Conley or Kyle Lowry a semi-risky deal, and maybe that's okay because you have Luka Doncic, but you already have a semi-risky deal in Kristaps Porzingis on the books. And so to rebound with, you kept Tim Hardaway Jr. The deal it's declining, so I think it works for them. That it's going to decline as Luka really starts to get more expensive. That's fine. I love their Sterling Brown deal, the Reggie Bullock deal. Sterling Brown played some point guard for the Houston Rockets last year, shot 8 jillion% from three, gives you some real defense. It's the same thing with Reggie Bullock. Can't put the ball on the floor nearly as much, but he was routinely covering the toughest guy for the Knicks last year. And so to just have those guys who are plug and play, like even Frank Ntilikina, look, all I'm saying is he shot, over 45% from three last year, but he's actually shown he can defend at an NBA level. I think with him, I like the flyer. And we all know I'm Frank, whoever listens to this podcast, I'm a big Frank Ntilikina guy. I'm not trying to oversell what he means, but it's a nice flyer because I thought he's always should have been treated as a 3-and-D wing, someone who you don't want to dribble or make these difficult decisions with the ball in his hands. He should now get to do that in Dallas if they play him at all. And he's shown that he can defend at a very high level in the NBA. There's a real reason that Tom Thibodeau went to him in the final seconds of what I can't remember what game it was against the Hawks in the playoffs to try and defend Trae Young. It was a fucking stupid when you thought about it because Frank Ntilikina played like 15 seconds the entire game. But there's a reason why you go to that because he has that capability. And so I like these types of moves that they made on the margins. I don't know if Boban needed to get a 2-year, $7 million deal. That's something I could question. So I gave them a C plus just because I think they should have done better with a head coaching hire. But that to me was really their one major whiff. And it sounded like they and Rick Carlisle were going to part ways no matter what. So C plus area, that's where I'm at for them. But you crucified them a D. I'm here for it.
I could be talked up to a C minus, but because really like a lot of the like you went through stuff on the mid level stuff and mid tier, Hardaway is probably a little better than that, but that type of stuff went fine. I think and maybe I'll be wrong, but Jason Kidd has been sort of a magnet or a cause of palace intrigue everywhere he's been. I've never seen anything tactically from him that was impressive relative to his peers. So yeah, I don't want to just keep dragging this back and forth, but yeah, I just that's just a brutal downgrade. Even if Carlisle had to go, even if that was fait accompli, just like not this guy.
Yeah, I think that, and it really just depends on. I think their off season, or it should come down to me in a vacuum, how stark is the downgrade, or how poor of a decision was it to hire Jason Kidd? And when you look at the on court implications specifically, I think you could penalize them a great deal. And if you're going to factor in the off court stuff as well. Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. I'm actually surprised though that you were that low on them.
I love to surprise you.